Wheat harvest, the big event of the year in the high plains. The rapid pulse of harvest affects everyone there, especially farmers, harvesters, and agribusiness people. The pressure to get the wheat cut before rain, storms, or hail damage the crop is almost a fever. And that fever can be as damaging as a disease. Why? Because it causes people to take shortcuts and chances. And those shortcuts can end in tragedy, mutilations, death, and debilitating injuries. Does it have to be? Let's talk to three custom harvesters about their experiences and how they approach safety. First, let's listen as Bob Gaddis tells how hurrying has affected his crew and him.
I told the boy to hurry back from the elevator. He wasn't capable of hurrying any faster than he did. It cost me a $30,000 truck, a load of wheat, and it could have cost the kid his life. He was just lucky. We didn't have any major injuries or anything, but it totally upset the truck and cost us a lot of downtime. We can't hurry. We got to take that word out of our vocabulary.
But the pressures of harvest, especially weather, make it hard not to hurry. A 54-year veteran of custom harvesting, Carl Rieger, tells his crews,
drive what you can handle. Just don't let it get away from you.
Pressure is heavy, especially on inexperienced drivers when moving on the highway.
You put too much pressure, too much stress on the kid, you fill him up with all this responsibility, and it's just not going to work. It's an accident looking for a place to happen.
Not turning off engines is one form of hurrying that can be deadly. Let's get some opinions on this from Rick Ferris, who has run his family's harvesting business since 1965.
Well, around this machinery, your best safety thing that you can do is don't get out of the door or out of the cab with the engine running. If that engine is stopped, that's going to do away with a lot of problems. These combines now have electric controllers to engage the separators. They have hydrostatics transmissions that can creep on you. A little electrical short while you're down there working on the combine could engage the separator.
We try not to even put our keys in the combines in the morning until we're completely through servicing, just for fear of somebody starting one.
Yeah, if you're going to work on the machine, shut it off.
Different manufacturers have different recommendations, but I basically feel if we're in the field and we need to shut one down quick, the main thing is to slow the turbocharger down and go ahead and shut her down. I've never had damage to an engine as long as I had the turbocharger stopped. I prefer to let them sit there at night before we shut down for good and cool down for 3 to 5 minutes. But this little bit of time it takes to cool one down is really not that much time.
Shields are extremely important to safety. For example, shields are sometimes removed from the end of a header. Shields should always be replaced after service or cleaning.
You have to walk once in a while between a truck and a machine, the boys tarping while they're finishing up dumping or something, and you don't want it where they can get their hand in a chain. Overall, they're not that much time. The ones that we feel do take too much time, we're calling the engineers and asking them to change them, so they don't.
You know, the number one thing that I see most that happens to custom harvesters, and farmers really do it bad, is they take all the safety shields off a combine and throw them in the barn. We take all those shields off, and then we're responsible.
Members of the U.S. Custom Harvesters Association emphasize training for safety. Some have formalized their programs, both for experienced and new crew members.
Most of my crew is experienced, but we usually have 2 or 3 new ones to break in every year. And so we do, before we ever go to the field, we spend one day on our formal safety program. we put together our ideas over the years, and we keep adding to our list, but we try and write it down so that it's formalized. We go down about a week early, and we do our formal safety program. We take our young men out and let them drive the trucks on the roads they'll be driving on. We show them where the bridges are bad. We show them where the soft shoulders are bad. This soft shoulder rollover is probably one of the major causes of losses for our insurers on the harvesters.
Training is necessary when going to a different crop or equipment. For example, corn.
We need to stop and take time to say, hey guys, this corn head is so dangerous that in a matter of seconds you could lose an arm or a leg or your life, because those things move at something like 12 feet per second on the snapping rolls, and in a matter of 3/10 of a second you could lose an arm, because that's how far it can suck you into the machine before your brain can tell you to take your arm out. A corn head is what I call a non-forgiving piece of machinery. It has no mercy whatsoever.
Observing bad safety practices are scary, even to old hands around machinery.
Kind of put the chill down your spine when you see something like that happen.
That's right. Makes the chill go up your spine just to think about it. Yeah. But I don't have a lot to talk about. I'm short 4 fingers. The combine didn't do that, though. I can't blame the combine for that.
That's why you're still in this business.
Yep. I got out of the silage cutting business when this happened. So
You got a glove caught in it.
yeah, had a glove on, and the machine wasn't working right. So I just kind of laid my hand up on the machine like that and went and looked back in there. I went and slipped, and this hand went right down into the feeder. And then that feeder drum had prongs on it about that long. Went and caught my glove and just sucked me right in. Yeah, went and cut the fingers off, knocked the hole, busted that blood vessel. Got a scar there 8 inches long. Yeah, I went and got my handkerchief out of this pocket over here. Just like that, took my teeth and tied that off up here. With my one hand and my teeth, tied her off down to a seat. Otherwise it'd bled death, because it was just as the heart was pumping. You can do wonders if you have to.
Happens real quick, too.
Yeah, you bet it happens quick. Yeah.
Happen just as easily around a combine.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, of course.
Reaction time isn't anything.
Yep, that's right. You just can't act fast enough. You can't act fast enough on something like that. It's quicker than the eye.
Let's go back to the starting point where safety begins, when the machinery is being prepared for harvest and crews are being hired and trained.
We're going to present selected safety procedures that we think are important to both experienced operators and new hires. Those of you who have lots of experience may want to use the tape simply for training employees. Yet, reviewing accident prevention attitudes and procedures before cutting each crop is good for all of us. Also, when you get a new combine, everyone working with it, not just the driver, needs to become familiar with its operation. In a tape of this length, we certainly can't cover everything, and you must be aware that we are not dealing with every hazard. However, we'll try to cover some major hazards and how to reduce your chances of having an accident.
A point we want to stress is that the safest place on a combine is in the driver's seat. And the way to stay there is to keep the machine running by minimizing downtime.
When you check over a combine before harvest, follow 3 simple rules. Allow enough time to do a thorough job, follow the manuals carefully, and use the correct parts.
This is just good business, and it does affect safety. The frustration of repeated breakdowns may lead to unsafe shortcuts.
Now, these are heavy machines, so crushing accidents are always a real problem. Always use the header block when working around the header.
Header block is found right here on one of these cylinders. It's just a matter of pulling the pin and dropping it down and then proceeding to lock it in place.
Now, if a hydraulic line would rupture without that header block in place, you could be hurt or killed. And this can happen in the shop as well as in the field.
Even though we don't normally think of the reel as being a heavy component, there is enough weight there to cause serious injury should it drop unexpectedly.
You know, not only can hoses break, but electrical components can fail too.
And failures like that can activate many systems on the modern combine.
And that's another reason for shutting off the engine before we work on the combine.
Now let's take a few minutes to talk about training new operators. Just where do you start?
Well, first they need to become thoroughly familiar with the operator's manual. It covers how the machine works, the hazards you might encounter, the recommended safety procedures, and proper operational techniques.
A new operator must take time to become familiar with all the controls and practice until he is comfortable with the combine. It's a good idea to practice driving the combine in an open field before harvest. Well, how about having an experienced operator in the cab while the new driver is learning?
It depends on the combine cab. If he can be accommodated in reasonable safety, he makes the training process safer, not more dangerous.
I agree. People who can distract the driver really shouldn't be in the cab. But there's no better way to conduct training than to have an experienced operator there.
And it depends on whether or not there's a place for them.
The rest of our demonstrations are better conducted in the field, so I'll see you there. Welcome to harvest. You know, one of the major hazards during cutting is being run over. When you operate a combine or even work around one as a crew member, you always need to be aware of the blind spots. Steve, would you get up in the cab and I'll show you what I mean. The driver needs to keep the mirrors adjusted, and that helps, but only to a point. The driver can't assume anything about where people are located. Even if you can see a person in the mirror, you can't be sure that he sees you, so eye contact is very important. It's hard for people to appreciate the limited rear visibility of a combine. Cross-training crew members helps everyone understand where the blind spots are, as well as some of the other hazards of combine operation. Anytime the driver is not absolutely certain where everyone is, he or she must walk around the machine before starting the engine. Using predetermined hand signals makes a lot of sense. The standard signals are often printed in the operator's manuals. You should make sure everyone on your crew is familiar with them. If you use a radio, there is no guarantee you will be heard, so make sure people are clear of the machine.
Clear!
And teach everyone in the field never to approach a running combine. But the best rule is to know where everyone is and make eye contact. Make sure if there is any doubt. Inspecting your combine before startup, as well as during the day, helps keep the combine running and contributes to safety. Remember, the safest place on the combine is in the driver's seat. Check the shields to make sure they're in place. The shields are there for your protection, so replacing them after service is well worth the time and effort. The shields can also help prevent chaff buildup. If you leave the shields lying on the ground, they may be run over or lost. A walk-around will help solve this problem. Look at the belts to be sure they're in good condition and running where they should relative to the sheaves. Misalignment often means something else is wrong, and if left unattended, the extra friction could create a field fire. There are several different styles of belt tensioners on combines. Most of them have a visual indication of spring tension. Inspect this regularly to be sure that the belt tensioners aren't set too tight or too loose. Anyone that works around a combine needs to be aware of belt speeds and reaction time.
For example, this belt runs at about 50 feet per second. At this rate, the belt will move 17 feet before you can react. If you get a hand caught in a belt, your chances of escaping injury are very small. Notice how fast this glove is pulled in. Once again, this demonstrates the need to shut off the engine before working on the combine. Chains are more aggressive than belts. Their idlers are generally fixed, and the chains won't stretch. They cut, slice, and are more apt to catch or entangle a hand or clothing. Watch for fluid seeps on hoses, because a seep may give warning of a rupture of a hose in a dangerous situation. Be aware that high-pressure leaks can cause injection of the fluid under the skin and serious injury. Use a paper or cardboard to check for suspected leaks. You need to watch for any dangling or rubbing wires. Wires should be secured or clipped to prevent wear. If you work on the cutter bar, always be sure to block up the reel, and never work around the header with the engine running. If you slug a header and have a feeder house reverser, reverse it and don't get out of the cab. If you don't have a reverser, lower the header and block up the reel. Then use a wrench to reverse the feeder house and clean the slug out by hand. This may be done from the header side, or you may have to get in through the feeder house to clean out the problem. Always be careful about your footing and balance when working above the header. You could fall on the sharp surfaces on the auger. To keep tabs on maintenance, write down items that need to be repaired or replaced. This work can then be done in the mornings when there is more time. Let's look at hazards around the grain tank. People get hurt and killed in them every year. The best practice is simply stay out of the grain tank when the engine is running. The leveling and bubble augers in the grain tank can be a hazard. One of the most deadly hazards on or around a combine is getting into the grain tank with the unloading auger running. People do this when cleaning out the tank and when breaking loose bridged materials. The unloading systems on most combines are sized to move over 100 pounds of grain each second. Once you get into it, you won't escape without serious injury. Unloading into a grain cart or truck presents hazards too. People standing on trucks can be knocked off by the unloading auger, or they can be crushed between the combine and other vehicles. This is another reason why the driver must be aware of where everyone is in the field. Wide headers can swing backwards and hit or crush a person. Truck sides are high, and a fall may cause serious injury. These falls may be made even worse by rings or jewelry. A ring finger can be severed. Providing a break for the driver is also an important safety practice. Stopping and taking a breather can help reduce driver fatigue, but switching drivers is best. This is especially important if you cut late into the night. Straw spreaders may not seem dangerous, but people have been killed when struck by them. Grain or corn cobs hurled from the spreader or chopper can cause serious injury, especially to the eyes. Protecting your eyes from these projectiles is a must. When you get ready to move the combine, plan ahead. Make sure you can see. Lock the brakes together before loading the machine, and turn on the flashers and check them. Be sure the slow-moving vehicle sign is clean and reflects properly. And use one or more pilot vehicles ahead of or behind the combine when traffic could cause an accident. Vehicles cresting a rise, coming around a blind corner, or just moving too fast can all cause serious accidents. Take the time to show crew members how far the tail of the combine will swing into the opposite traffic lane when turning.
The procedures you have just seen will help you avoid accidents, but knowing them is not good enough. You have to practice what you know. This is true when weather threatens or when you are behind schedule because of the weather. It's true when long hours make you dead tired, dulled senses and fatigue impair judgment and place you in jeopardy. Your judgment, or lack of it, will be the major factor in whether you survive harvest without injury or survive it at all. Safety experts are well aware of the importance of human factors in accident prevention.
Looking at accident reports, you'll find that most all are caused by hurrying and taking shortcuts. There's a proper way to do every activity, a safe way to do it, and when we change those factors by hurrying and shortcutting, then's when accidents occur. Human error is by far the largest factor involved in accidents. Okay, here's a clip in which a 25-year-old young man in western Kansas was killed while cleaning out of the header of a combine. He failed to shut the machine off, tragically fell into the machine and was killed. When an accident such as this happens, we must remember that fatality is not the only tragic thing. It involves the family, it involves the farm, it involves a whale of a lot of people. To those who are watching this program, I have something I'd like to say. Is life so cheap and time so important that you can't spend the necessary time and energy to prevent accidents? It would take 2 minutes a day, maybe 20 minutes a day. But folks, it's important to spend that time. Don't be compulsive. Protect yourself and others. Spend the necessary time and energy to prevent accidents. Really, your family deserves no less.
We can't hurry. We got to take that word out of our vocabulary.
You can drive what you can handle. Just don't let it get away from you.
You put too much pressure, too much stress on the kid, you fill him up with all this responsibility, and it's just not going to work. You know, it's an accident looking for a place to happen.
So we do, before we ever go to the field, we spend one day on our formal safety program.
A cornhead is what I call a non-forgiving piece of machinery. It has no mercy whatsoever.
Yeah, if you're going to work on the machine, shut it off.
This little bit of time it takes to cool one down is really not that much time.
Reaction time isn't anything.
Yep, that's right. You just can't act fast enough. You can't act fast enough on something like that. It's quicker than the eye.